Number of the previous memorim that we were learning. It is from Tafshin Lamed Gimel. It's a mimer from the second day of Shavuos. It's from this week's Dvar Malchus, and even though it's Shavuos, it's still in all it's included because of its connection with the previous mimer and also the next mimer, the Dvar Malchus. It's also going to be a connection and a continuation, a hemshech of the previous mimer. But in the beginning, there's not going to be anything that connects it. It's going to be like a page and a half in until we get to the ideas that we spoke about previously. Okay. The second day of Shavuos, says you will make a yomtiv of Shavuos for Hashem your God, the amount, the measure of the giving, the donation of your hand, like Hashem your God will bench you. When you understand, remember what it says in the passage. The Rebbe asks an interesting question over here. Why does it say first you will do, you will make a Yom Tov of Shavuos, and then, in other words, you will do, and then you will make the Yom Tov? Why does it say that type of order of doing versus the Shavuos? As we'll soon see, that the Yom Tov should precede whatever actions he wants to talk about. All over it first says the primary thing, and that afterwards it talks about the action. Like, for example, by Sukkot it says that the Yom Tov of Sukkot you shall do for you. So Tchila, initially it says Chag HaSukkos, the Yom Tov of Sukkot. Only afterwards does it say you will do for you. So the first thing is the main part, the Yom Tov. Then, and you will do it, you will make it. Why over here does he flip around the order? That seemingly would make sense. And instead of saying it in that order, he says you will make Shavuos first the making and then the word Shavuos. He goes on and says, the fact that he prefaces and says, first idea of you will make, and then we say the Yom Tov of Shavuos, it's obvious. Yom Tov of Shavuos, the doing and the making, that is a primary and core thing. But we need to understand the reason for that. Why is the doing so core and so primary that that's first, even before mentioning the Yom Tov? Not like Sukkot, for example, where over there, where it talks about the Yom Tov, it talks about it only, the Yom Tov is first, and then it talks about the doing. Then he goes on and says, this question is even more difficult for another reason. In a movement, seemingly, and even more so, it's not understood. Seemingly, just the opposite. Any Yom Tov, the action should be the least emphasized. That should be the Yom Tov of Shavuos. Chag Shavuos, the Yom Tov of Shavuos has no action whatsoever. That's the difference between the Yom Tov Shavuos and Pesach and Sukkot. During the Yom Tov of Pesach, there are actions, there's things to do. You get rid of the chametz, that's one action. The mitzvah, there's mitzvah, it's a mitzvah. Ours, there's the mitzvah of eating matzah. And the same thing, the Chag HaSukkos, yes, the Sukkah of our minion. There's also on Sukkot, there's actions pertaining to that Yom Tov of making and building the Sukkah and making and putting together the four kinds, or just doing the action of the mitzvah of the shaking of the four kinds. As opposed to the Yom Tov Shavuos, has no action whatsoever. And this is the reason why Shavuos has a very interesting name as opposed to all the other Yomim type. That's why Shavuos is called Atzeres. Atzeres is from the word stop. Going to Yisrael, the stop sign say on it, Atzoir. Atzeres means stop, hold back. That's one of the multiple names that Shavuos has. How come? Because it's not about what you do. It's not about an active activity that you do on Shavuos, not like Sukkot, not like Pesach. They are not called Atzeres because there's more to the Yom Tiv than just stopping their labor. There is matzah, there is a dalad minim, there is sukkah, all these different things going on. But Shavuos doesn't have some particular activity you must do on Shavuos. So how is Shavuos designated? In Elo Rak Atzeres Masiyas Malacha. Since it doesn't have a specific type of action associated with the Yom Tiv, Elo Rak Atzeres Masiyas Malacha. All it is about withholding from doing work. So that's why Shavuos is called Atzeres. So if Shavuos is not about action, it's about not doing, the mitzvahs are not associated with doing. Lefiza Tiglak, which you have solved, the question is growth. Dafka b'chag Shavuos maskal kasav vasisa. Dafka in Shavuos, it begins with the words, and you shall do. So therefore, how come? Does it start with doing v'asis chag Shavuos instead of like chag Sukkos Tase, where the doing is the second thing, the main thing is the Yom Tiv. Here you're making such a big deal about action when there's seemingly no action on Shavuos. It says in line 19, when it says you shall do of Chag Shavuos, that it's referring to not just the Shavuos itself. It says the doing and the bringing of the korbanos according to the measure of the donation of your hands, what you will give. That's what it's talking about. You will make the korbanos and you will bring korbanos according to how much Hashem, according to how much you want to give Hashem. So therefore, it's not that the Vasisa is referring to the Yom Tov of Shavuot. Line 20, and this is applicable the expression of doing an action. In a simple sense, Vasis is referring to the Yom Tov of Shavuos. That's no, just reading the pasuk, it seems to be that Vasis is not going on the next words, Misas Nidvas Yadcha, but rather it's going on the word Shavuos. This understood that in the Yom Tov Shavuos there's the idea of action. Until action is a primary and core thing, like we mentioned earlier. So therefore, the question is, what is the primary idea? How does Shavuos have to do with the idea of action? Last line on the page, understand what it says in the pasuk. You shall make a Yom Tov Shavuos, through the make and the doing of the Yom Tov Shavuos. What results? It comes out from that top of page above. Comes out from that should be Havaya Lekechona. Because the pasuk continues. Misas Nidvas Yodcha V'Hainu. Fix this up a little bit. Yeah, sun area. Sorry. V'Hainu. What does it mean over here? That the pasuk continues with the words Misas Nidvas Yodcha. Hainu. This means that this giving has to be not in the normal way. That the Chazal say that a person can bring his obligation in the korbanos shlamim, that a person needs to bring korbanos shlamim, the Beis Hamikdash, when he comes and appears over there for Oila Regel. So it says he can bring his obligation both from chulin korbanos, if he wants, he can mix into it also from the meiser that he has to bring. He has to bring korbanos from the meiser behema that a person gives a tenth of their animals. That means misas nidbas yodcha means that a person needs to donate more and give above and beyond what their meiser obligations are. Like haloshin vitur, like the Chazalos used the expression vitur, which means like to give more than that's what the misas nidbas yodcha is about. But Tzarech L'Havim, the Rebbe says we need to understand. Line 7, Din Zehu B'chol HaMoedim. This halacha is in all Yom Tovim that Kfi Shalom Eidim Chagish Shavuos Kol HaMoedim, like Chazal actually derived from the Yom Tov of Shavuos for all the other Yom Tovim. Lama Nemar Zebefedish Gab Chagish Shavuos Davkis. Why does it say explicitly by the Yom Tov of Shavuos if it's something that's applicable in all Yom Tovim? Gamzar Lavam also when you understand Mashanamar Mrs. Nidvas Yodcha, where it says the measure of the giving of your hand, the donation of your hand, Indian on the Dova told about the idea of donations that's dependent upon the heart. Therefore, the common expression that's used is the ones that are giving of heart, because that's where the emotion and the motivation of giving comes from. Why does it say the nedava of your heart, the nedava of your hand, and not the nedava of your heart? Now the Rebbe is going to begin by introducing another topic, the topic of the date of Matan Torah, and Shavuos is, or more importantly, the connection of Matan Torah with Yom Tov of Shavuos, which is not necessarily so clear, even though now it's accepted that way. Ois Beis, line 14. Given the Hegman closing the Matan Torah is to be understood by first prefacing the general idea of the giving of the Torah. That is the point of the Yom Tov of Shavuos. Like the Nusa, those the men of the Great Assembly that established the Siddur, established in the davening and the brachas of the Yom Tov Shavuos. Man Matan Torah say no that it's they establish us to say Kiddush at the davening that we say. How do we describe Shavuos? The time of the giving of our Torah. Now we know that this has not always been so. This wasn't necessarily that the Shavuos had to coincide with the calendar day of Matan Torah. Though the Alter Rebbe explains in the Shulchan Aruch that the Torah, when you look inside the Chumash, it speaks about the Yom Tov of Shavuos. It doesn't say anything about Shavuos being connected to Matan Torah. It doesn't say this is the Yom Tov I've given you to celebrate and mark the giving of the Torah. And not only doesn't it say the connection with Matan Torah, it doesn't even connect it with what day of the month the Yom Tov of Shavuos is supposed to be celebrated. The only thing that the Torah says is that it has to be the 50th day of the Omer. Therefore, in the days when the months were still determined by getting a visual sighting of the new moon, and then Bezdin would Makadosh it and say, this and this day is the Rosh Chodesh. So then it could have come out, theoretically, we'll soon explain. Theoretically, Shavuos could come out in a date other than the 6th of Sivan. Something that could come out on the 5th of Sivan, that would occur if based on the vision of the Eidim and the Kiddush HaChodesh of Bezdin, if both Rosh Chodesh Iyar and Rosh Chodesh Sivan were both 2 days, not like now that Rosh Chodesh Sivan is 1 day, Rosh Chodesh Iyar is 2 days, but if both of them would be 2 days, so then Shavuos would come out 50 days later from Pesach, would come out on the 5th of Sivan. Sometimes it would come out the 6th of Sivan, depending again if the Eidim saw 1 month full, 1 month not full, so then 1 month would have 2 days Rosh Chodesh, 1 month would have 1 day Rosh Chodesh, could be like the way we set it up this year, these years, 2 days Rosh Chodesh year, only 1 day Sivan, or if they could have seen it the other way. They could have seen it in such a way where it would have been only 1 day Rosh Chodesh year and would come out 2 days Rosh Chodesh Sivan. In such a case, so then it would come out that the 50th day of the Omer would coincide with the 6th of Sivan. Palmim Bezayin. Sometimes it would come out on the 7th of Sivan if both of them were Chasedim. If you had Rosh Chodesh Iyar only 1 day and Rosh Chodesh Sivan only 1 day, so then the 50th day from Pesach would be on the 7th. So therefore we see that Shavuos, according to Torah, in the times when they were Mekadesh al Pira'iyah by Bezdin, pronouncing that the day is Mekudesh based on the testimony of Edom, of witnesses, it's not necessarily going to coincide with the date of the giving of Torah. So what are you telling me? That Shavuos is about Matan Torah. Shavuos is not at all about Matan Torah. Shavuos can be a separate Yom Tov other than Matan Torah. Line 24. And he continues, but according to the calculation that's now transmitted to us now because of the fact that we don't have Kiddush HaChodesh in Bezdin, so now we follow a set calendar. Always the 50th of the day of the Omer will be on the 6th of Sivan. And therefore it will always coincide Shavuos with the day of Matan Torah. So therefore, because it's that way, so the Rebbe says everything is obviously by Hashgacha Pratis. The fact that these days it's always that way, that means that there is a connection, even though Torah does not connect it, and it doesn't theoretically have to happen that way. It's understood. The very fact that the Yom Tov Shavuos now is always on the 6th of Sivan, Yom Matan Torah, the day of Matan Torah. It's not just by chance. And you say, this is the way it comes out, but really Shavuos has no connection with Matan Torah. But rather the reason why it does coincide together these days, that Shavuos these days is always on the 6th of Sivan, the day of Matan Torah, is because Shavuos is connected with Matan Torah. So the Yom Tov Shavuos is connected with the idea of Matan Torah. Now the Rebbe brings a very interesting thing. Even though we said theoretically Shavuos could have happened on the 5th, 6th, or 7th of Sivan, when we had Bezdin being Mekadesh, Rebbe says in the bottom of page Zayin, at the beginning of the parentheses, add to such degree shall adas kama tanoim, according to the opinion. Many tanoim, top of page Zayin, poisak kvias the Shavuos la'olam bevav siva, that it always came out, that Shavuos came out always on the 6th of Sivan, gambas manshari mekachim al piyar, even in the times when they would have Bezdin be Mekadesh according to sight, Hashem would always make it come out that the Levana would come in such a type of way that it will always be, one of the months would be Chaser, one of the months would be Malay, 1 month would have 2 days of Shkodesh, 1 month would have 1 day of Shkodesh. So it always came out that even though, again, theoretically, it could have come out otherwise, but it always happened this way. So Shavuos was always celebrated, according to some Tanoim, on the 6th of Sivan. So that shows even more so the connection that even though the Torah doesn't officially connect Shavuos with the giving of the Torah, we see how internally there is a connection between Shavuos and the giving of the Torah. So the Rebbe goes on line 3 on page Zayin. Sam, moving from this, understood. To avoid a person that has to be on the Yom Tov Shavuos, because of his Chag Shavuos. That's explained in the pasuk. You shall make Chag Shavuos. You have to do a certain avodah for Shavuos. It's a preparation for Matan Torah. So in other words, when we say you need to make Shavuos, it's since Shavuos is so interconnected with the giving of the Torah, so it's like saying you need to make Matan Torah. We as Yidden have an obligation in our Torah to make things into Matan Torah. Well, these are moving for this, according to this understood. Based on what we just now established, that we are Chag Shavuos, means we need to make up Matan Torah. We need to prepare. We need to do things to create the Matan Torah situation. So all the different questions and analysis that we had in the pasuk, in the previous paragraph, in the previous ayos, is all about understanding and bringing to fruition and to understanding of what the preparations are for Matan Torah. All these details in the Hesam in the Matan Torah are appropriate and corresponding to the idea of the giving of the Torah. Like, for example, what it says in the pasuk, you shall make the Yom Tov Shavuos for Hashem your God. It matches up what it says at the beginning of the Aser Sadibris. I am Hashem your God. In line 13, second paragraph, you need to understand. Now he's going to go back to what we had in the previous mimer, the question. Why it says at the beginning of Matan Torah, specifically Vaydaber Elikim, Lo Shem Havaya, Shu Shem HaMiyuchad, not Hashem's unique, ineffable name of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. It says instead that Elikim spoke the Aser Sadibros. El Shem Elikim Davke, specifically the name Elikim. The Rebbe goes on to say, what's the problem with using Shem Elikim? Hine Shem Elikim Umogin V'nartik Al Shem Havaya. Shem Elikim is a shield and a sheath, a case, a covering for the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. Also, like it says in the pasuk, Shem Shemogin Havaya Elikim, that Shem Havaya and Shem Elikim are like the sun and its protective layer and its sheath. The Ad Elikim B'Gematria Teva, so indicative of how Elikim is much lower than Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei is the fact that it's the numerical equivalent of the word, the nature. Like it's brought down, the Shulchan speaks about what we're supposed to have in mind when we use the name Elikim or Elikenu in brachas and in davening. It says, what does the name Elikim mean? What is the idea that we're supposed to have in mind? What we would call in English the Almighty, something that the one who has all capabilities and powers, etc. Now, the very fact that we're talking about all types of powers, capabilities, as soon as we use the word powers and capabilities, these are not things that are foreign to us. Created beings also have powers and capabilities. So true, we're talking about Hashem being all powerful and full of capabilities, but being all powerful and full of capabilities is just Hashem being more than us. So it shows a relationship. It's still something that's associated with us, still has a shaykhus with us. It's not completely divorced from our existence. Because of life, similar to what it says, line 21. Like it says in the pasuk, that he took the mighty ones of the earth. From the pasuk, Elea Oretz means the mighty ones of the earth, that we derive that Elikim that's related to the word Elim is also means might. So we see that just like there is Hashem's might, there is might in a lesser degree, but there's also might in creation. To such a degree that a judge is called Elikim. In Parsh Mishpatim it says, before Elikim you should bring the complaints of both of them. So a judge is called Elikim because he has the might and strength of the power of the court. How much more so that the Malachim, because of their might and power and capabilities, they are also called Elikim. Like it says that Hashem is the God of Elikim. Which Elikim is he the God of? Elikim is talking about he's a God over the Malachim. So the Malachim are called Elikim also. So if we're talking about the name Elikim shows that it even has similarities in the creation. That's the level that Torah is connected with. Only Elikim. That's what he's going to challenge right now and show how Torah is way higher than everything. It says in line 24, but concerning Torah it says, I will be by him a plaything. Hashem's own private plaything is a Torah. Nelama me'ein kol choy, concealed from the eyes of all living beings. Lo yada enosh erka, no person can know its value. So, in other words, it's completely removed from this world. Completely removed from this world. Why do you use a name that's of Elohim that gives it, that relates to things in this world? Since up till the giving of the Torah, there was the decree, but one's above should not descend below. So therefore, the Torah was totally and completely removed from this world, even more so than it is now. How they move, and so it's understood. But Torah, top of page Ches, that the Torah, the way it was prior to Matan Torah, there was totally not connected at all to the creation. In other words, it was completely removed from this world. That since it was given from such a level, that was concealed from the eyes of all living beings. In other words, before the giving of the Torah, yes, there were those that learned Torah from Yitzchak, Yaakov, etc. There was the yeshiva Mitzrayim, but all of that was Torah the way it related to the world, because there was the Gzeira, there was the decree, the ones above should not descend below. But by Matan Torah was given the level of Torah the way it's completely concealed and was never perceived by anyone in the world. Ain't a movement, it's not understood. Why does it say specifically the name of Elohim, which shows a name of Hashem that relates to things in this world, if we're talking about the level of Torah coming down from a level that's completely beyond the world? And then the Rebbe adds lines 5. Yoiser ain't a movement, even more, it's not understood. According to what it's explained. Shahamedaber, all of them are by Daber, is called Dvar Malchus. It's explained that the one who speaks possesses and is higher than the things that are being spoken. I reveal to someone a new idea. I invented something. I came up with something. I'm revealing it to you. So I'm the creator of the idea, and therefore the idea is less than me. So the speaker is higher than the thing that he's communicating. The same thing what says by Daber Elokim as Kol Advarim Ha'ela. So the speaker is greater than the things that he's speaking. In other words, the Torah. And we just like a person that speaks that is beyond the speech that he's speaking. Speech has no significance. The power of speech has no significance in comparison to the person that's speaking. Like the Alter Rebbe in chapter 20 explains at great length how over there, how speech isn't significant concerning thought, and thought isn't significant concerning the emotions, and the emotions concerning the intellect, and how therefore how far speech is from the person's intellect, and even further from the person's own being itself. Therefore, Torah, we said, is way, 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 way beyond the world. But what spoke the Torah? Elohim. But Alpha became them already, but Elohim Dafka, and after it's still in all it says that Elohim specifically spoke it. How could it be that Elohim spoke? What does that mean that Elohim spoke? Elohim is seemingly a lower level than the Torah that was being communicated. Why would the Pasuk choose to use the name Elohim when it's trying to speak about bringing the Torah down from that highest, most level? Stop over here. Any questions?